Mr. Minister, Secretary Baker, Ambassador Saad Mohammed Al-Kubaisi, Consul General Al-Muraishi, distinguished members of the Minister's delegation, Consul Generals, Rice faculty, students, ladies and gentlemen. We are indeed very pleased at the opportunity this evening of having as our keynote speaker one of the very top policymakers of the state of Qatar, His Excellency the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Sheik Hamad bin Jassim bin Jabr Al-Thani. Rice University and the Baker Institute have had the privilege to host the visit of Her Highness Sheikha Moza, the wife of the Emir of the state of Qatar, in 1997, when she was on a visit to the United States to look at various institutions of higher learning here with a view toward determining how Qatar would develop its own university system. Her Highness met with Secretary Baker, and then President Gillis and I had further exchanges with Sheikha Moza on this issue. This discussion actually was continued with the Emir himself, Sheikh Hamad bin Khalifa Al-Thani, during a trip I took to Doha for the Baker Institute in 1998. The Emir has indicated that one of his top priorities for his country is to create a high-quality university for Qatar's population of some 600,000 people, and we are certainly happy to help in that effort. We also have had the honor of hosting the Minister of Energy and Industry of Qatar, Abdullah bin Hamad Al-Attiyah, in 1997, who delivered a speech on Qatar's energy industry. So accordingly, Mr. Minister, you'll see that you are amongst friends, and we'd like to welcome you here as a visiting member now of the Baker Institute family. Under the leadership of the Emir, Qatar is emerging as one of the most dynamic states in the strategically important Gulf region. The Emir has launched reforms in critical areas, which the Foreign Minister has been very active in, including dropping press censorship, giving women a high profile in Qatari society, and the consideration of municipal elections. More than 60% of Qataris are below 30 years of age. This is a young country with a young leadership. The Emir himself is in his 40s, as are many of the other top officials, including our speaker, is a young man. Qatar is not one of the big oil-producing states of the Gulf, but most importantly, it is believed to have one of the largest reserves of natural gas in the world, putting Qatar behind only Russia and Iran in total gas reserves. So Qatar's future will be increasingly important. Qatar has taken an activist role in its foreign policy. The United States enjoys close relations with Qatar in the political, commercial, and military fields, and Qatar has played a very constructive role in the Arab-Israeli peace process, and I could say an innovative role. So it is in this context that we look forward to our guest speaker's remarks, which will be in Arabic and translated by interpreters in our booth. The Minister will answer questions in English from the audience after his remarks. And a little technical lesson for you all. You have the instruments on your chairs. You just press it on this black button, and the volume is on the right-hand side here. But please keep the instrument pointed to either that metal box in that booth over there or that metal box in that booth over there, so that you have a line of sight in terms of the sound. His Excellency Sheikh Hamad bin Jabr Al-Thani was named Minister of Affairs in September 1992, his most recent appointment in a professional career of long standing. Under the leadership of the Emir, he has been the principal architect of Qatar's new foreign policy. As Foreign Minister, he has expanded Qatar's ties with countries outside the Arab world and increased the number of countries with which Qatar has formal diplomatic relations. This new era has seen a dramatic expansion of his country's bilateral ties with the leading nations of Asia and Europe, as well as a large increase in its commercial and security ties with the United States. Sheikh Hamad has been an active participant in the Middle East peace process, and he has led the Qatari delegation to the Summit of Peacemakers in Sharm el-Sheikh in Egypt in '96, and he was amongst the first Arab leaders to meet with Israeli officials. Please join me in welcoming to our podium His Excellency, the Minister of Qatar. Sheik Hamad.
Thank you very much for this introduction. I would like to thank Mr. Baker for this session and my admiration to this place and the worldwide reputation that it has reached. I would like to start to give my speech in my native language, Arabic, and then we will move into the question and answer session. I would like to speak about Qatar and the peace process. For us in Qatar, peace is a strategic objective which fulfills our aspirations and serves our virtual interests. It is also the way forward to achieving a new regional order that could take our area out of the never-ending cycles of hostility, violence, and bloodshed. Peace is also the fundamental prerequisite required to establish a regional framework of cooperation, friendship, and security among all the nations and the peoples of the region. We firmly believe that without such a comprehensive, just, and durable peace, we cannot envisage a new Middle East where resources and energies can be focused on achieving development and prosperity, maintaining political and economic stability, and enhancing social and cultural interaction. And only through peace can mutual trust and security between all the peoples and states of this region, without exception, be achieved instead of continuing to waste our efforts and resources on the purposes of conflict which serve the interests of no one. Peace should be the dividing line which must separate us from a sorry past and put us on the way towards the better future that our people deserve. With this long-term and clear vision, we have always been committed in Qatar to support and push forward the negotiations between the Arabs and the Israelis, hoping that these negotiations would lead to a just and comprehensive settlement, putting an end to this conflict, which we have considered historically a major source of violence and tension in our region. That is why we have always looked upon this long-awaited settlement not as merely a series of paper agreements related to pieces of territories. Although such territorial compromises are of crucial importance, they are not enough on their own to achieve real and lasting peace. In order for that to happen, serious and meaningful steps leading to a historic reconciliation between the two sides should accompany them, putting an end to the conflict and hoping the way for the prospects of cooperation and mutual confidence, as well as common interests that we believe are numerous. In order for the settlement to become the precursor towards the historic reconciliation we long for, however, peace, in our opinion, must be comprehensive and just for it to be durable and final. The basis for that should be the principles of international legitimacy, the exchange of land for peace, and guaranteeing stability and security for all parties concerned. In our view, this should mean Israel's withdrawal from the Arab territories it occupied in 1967 and from South Lebanon, and its return to the international recognized borders, and granting the Palestinian people its legitimate national and political rights, just like other peoples of the world. The Palestinians deserve to have their rights in the same way that Israel and its people deserve to have the guarantees of peace and security they seek. When all parties enjoy these natural and mutual and equal rights, Israel can then become a natural and integral part of the region, and we can all, Arabs and Israelis alike, then enjoy the dividends and benefits of peace based on good neighborly relations, friendship, and cooperation. Based on these firm principles, we have supported the efforts of the United States, the main sponsor of this process, and we have looked at your country to play its crucial role as an honest broker between the parties and urged your government to increase those efforts and become even more involved in the process. For our part, we have been ready to cross that extra mile and even take risks in order to push the peace process forward. Hence, we supported the bilateral negotiation tracks between Israel and its Arab neighbors, Palestinians, Syrians, and Lebanese. We also welcomed the agreement reached on the Palestinian track, which we consider of particular importance for the whole process, the latest of which was, of course, the Y agreement. And we expressed our gratitude for the strong efforts made by the administration, especially President Clinton and Secretary of State Albright. We also urged the two parties to fulfill their obligations and implement this agreement as soon as possible in order to maintain the momentum of progress and build on it. In addition, we emphasized the necessity of resuming negotiations on the Syrian and Lebanese tracks in order to break the deadlock that has paralyzed those two tracks for so long, increasing the potential for violence and instability in the region. Because we were convinced of the wider regional dimension of the peace process, we entered the multilateral negotiations, which we hoped would lead to a framework of comprehensive regional cooperation. As such, we hosted in Doha the meeting of the disarmament committees and went far in the face of many criticism and reservations. Hosting also in Doha the Middle East and North African Economic Conference, despite unfavorable political circumstances, to say the least. We also maintained an official representative relationship between our country and Israel, which we had hoped would develop into full and normal relations had the peace process came to fruition, as it should have. This did not happen, however, due to what we regarded as negative and unhelpful policies adopted by the Israeli government under Prime Minister Netanyahu since it came to power. Regrettably, these policies were extremely detrimental to the peace process and obstructive to the efforts aimed at achieving its objectives. Although I have no wish to interfere in the internal political affairs of Israel, I cannot but express our hopes that the forthcoming Israeli elections would result in a positive political outcome which would serve the interests of peace and improve the chances of negotiations. In fact, we are looking forward to the day when the peace option in Israel becomes a constant strategic reality shared by all political parties, so this crucial matter ceases to be subject to narrow-minded and selfish divisions along party political lines. We say that because we believe that the majority on the Arab side have chosen peace as our definitive strategic option, and we wish with all honesty to see on the Israeli side a partner that shares this view and looks at peace with the same strategic and long-term commitment. We believe that such a partnership would accelerate the attainment of peace in ways which may be difficult to imagine now. Let me emphasize yet again that despite all the difficulties and setbacks, we are still firm believers in this process. We are convinced of its necessity and the inevitability of its eventual success. We view peace as a vital need, and we believe it to be the same for the Israelis. Let me, if I may here, draw your attention to an important point. Contrary to the unfortunate and, in my view, completely erroneous impression that we find sometimes here in the United States and in the West generally, and which stipulates from the Arabs are divided about peace, or that Arab governments want a peaceful settlement while Arab peoples do not. Let me assure you that this is not the case. Indeed, we are fully convinced that the majority of Arab peoples and societies want peace and long for it. I also have no doubt that the same applies to the Israeli people. But peace has certain requirements which must be fulfilled if it were to be meaningful and durable. Above all, it has to reflect the right of people to live in liberty, dignity, and security. This right cannot be exclusive to one party without the other, but has to apply equally to both parties. As such, it should be applied to the Palestinians as well as the Israelis, and the converse, of course, is true. In this context, we find it very difficult, as friends of the United States, to accept the lack of distinction in U.S. policy between terrorism aimed against innocent civilians, which we all abhor and condemn in the strongest possible terms, and between the legitimate aspirations of people to liberate their lands and retrieve their rights. That is why we have always called Islam as a faith is totally innocent from terrorism, extremism, and bigotry. Indeed, it is a religion based on tolerance, compassion, and the respect of other heavenly faiths, namely Judaism and Christianity. The hardline and extremist tendencies we witness sometimes by some Muslim groups are no different in our view from similar tendencies and trends found both in Christianity and Judaism. We are convinced that the best way to fight this phenomenon of extremism and isolationism is through more openness and increased democratic participation by the people in the decision-making process. You may find some of what I am going to say surprising when I assure you that public opinion in our country and our region has become of great importance and influence on the policies of governments which can no longer ignore it or bypass it. We believe it will be in the interests of the United States and of its relations of the countries in the region to be equally mindful of the importance of Arab and Islamic public opinion and to address its concerns in the same way it takes care to address the wishes and concerns of Israeli public opinion. We also believe that it is vital to follow a balanced and fair approach in appropriating blame and calling the responsibility for any party for obstructing the peace process or renegating on its promises in the process. Such blame must not be directed against one party while sparing the other, as is often the case with the Palestinians, but should be directed equally against the Israelis as is necessary. Indeed, we wish that the United States would adopt a policy of public condemnation, holding responsible any party whose actions or policies impede the process without appeasement or timidity. I believe when such an approach becomes balanced and reciprocal, we would then be on the right track toward genuine peaceful coexistence. For all these reasons, and because, as I said before, we firmly believe that the majority of both sides of the divide is in favor of peace, we have to be frank in admitting that this majority, which I would permit myself to call the majority for peace, feels at present and for quite a while now a great deal of frustration and disillusion, and here also we have to admit that they have a right to feel that way. The progress that we were hoping to see in the peace process has not materialized. Indeed, this process has regrettably suffered for years from a lack of progress, even a deadlock, which threatens to escalate into something far worse. As you know, frustration, lack of progress, and disillusion make a perfect recipe for anger, extremism, and hostility. This would force the door wide open for the enemies of peace, who we believe are a minority on both sides, to practice policies intended only to destroy and prospect for peace. This is something that we must not allow to happen at any cost. Let us try to remember that there was a time at the outset of this peace process that we had very high hopes about the possibilities and opportunities which lay ahead. Perhaps those feelings were over-optimistic. They were nevertheless the result of wise policies and courageous decisions and difficult choices. This will also bring me to point out the grave loss we all suffered recently with the untimely death of His Majesty the late King Hussein of Jordan. Aside from the historic and distinguished relations which historically linked our two countries, we viewed King Hussein as a major pillar of peace in the region and a campaigning soldier for its achievement. He was a firm believer that peace is the only way forward, and we cannot forget the courage with which he stood this position and struggled to achieve his historic dream of a peaceful and honorable just settlement for the Arab-Israeli conflict. Neither can we forget the extent to which he was prepared to take risks for this noble purpose. Let us work together to transform this dream into a reality that would honor His Majesty's honor and reinforce his achievement in the history of our region and its peoples. I would like also to strongly urge our friends in the United States and our friends and allies worldwide to provide whenever support and assistance needed to his successor, King Abdullah II, wishing him every success in his endeavors and wishing for Jordan and its people the peace and prosperity they deserve. This would be the best expression of our loyalty to and remembrance of King Hussein and his legacy. I also call upon all those who support peace on both sides of the divide, Arabs and Israelis, and I call upon you as Americans, be it in government or the media, or in academic or research institutions, indeed to all sectors of American public opinion, asking you all to concentrate your efforts and resources within a framework which I would like to call an alliance for peace. حكيت Our target should be to launch a methodical, continuous, and persistent campaign aimed at raising the voice of the peace camp higher to drown out the noise and negative impact of the enemies of peace, and above all, to put pressure to bear on the politicians, urging them to elevate their policies and decisions to the level which corresponds to the aspirations and hopes of their peoples. Perhaps then we could fulfill our duty towards our people and countries by taking the necessary moves towards the real peace that we wish for our region on the eve of the new millennium. Thank you.
The Minister will take your questions and will answer directly to whatever questions. Do I see any hands? You solved the whole Middle East peace process. We have
One question. We appreciate your presentation. Could you comment on the Qatari perspective with respect to the Gulf Cooperation Council, and in particular the meeting that was held in the Emirates just before Ramadan?
Well, as you know, the Gulf Council is one of, I think, the council which it's more active in the area than all the other council or what other being called in the area, in the Middle East area. The GCC countries, I think they are, I cannot say, if I will evaluate it by myself, I cannot say it is great or it is exactly what we need. We think the Gulf cooperation could do more, and the people expect more from it. But I have to say that it is a step further in the cooperation between the country. The meeting in Abu Dhabi was a good meeting, fruitful meeting between the leaders of the area. But as I mentioned, the expectation of our people is more. And for that, I don't want to upset my colleagues or my brothers in the area, but I think that we can do more for our people in the area in this cooperation, especially that all the GCC members, their culture is the same. Most of the countries are rich, or they live in similar condition, most of the population of the area, and they are waiting and doing some expectation in the economic sector, in the military sector even, to have more cooperation between the GCC against any threats from outside the GCC. So I cannot say we are in perfect condition. We are going a step. We can go more steps further, but at least it's holding itself.
Mr. Minister, along the same lines of the previous question, how is the attitude of Oman towards the relations between themselves and the Emirates concerning this particular matter at hand?
Well, I think Oman and Emirate, if I get your question right, they have a good relation, and I think they have a working committee. Sometimes people speculate from the area, outside the area, they think that there is a border problems or something like this. As far as I know, and I know the matter exactly, we have a good relation, an excellent relation with both countries. I think and they are in a good, understanding. They are in a good relationship. And I think also there is a committee between them to develop the economic situation between both sides. And I think they are doing well, and I don't see a problem between both countries.
Your Excellency, want to talk a little bit about relations with Iran. Many Gulf countries have been improving relations with Iran, while the U.S. has really done very little. And of course, the concerns are about weapons of mass destruction and support for terrorism and lack of support for the peace process. Some believe that the U.S. could best deal with those problems if it were to engage Iran, like some of the Gulf countries are doing more of now. I was just wondering what your opinion about how you might advise the U.S. with respect to that.
Let me tell you this. I think Iran is an important country in the area. We cannot ignore Iran from our policy, or we cannot seal Iran among this area. We, between us and Qatar and Iran, there is a water of 200 kilometers. That means 120 miles. The normal situation is to have a good relation with Iran. The normal way is to try to understand each other matters. I think we started in Qatar many years ago, and we was criticized by most of the countries in our area, let me be very frank, which they have good relation, which we are glad that they have a good relation now with Iran and with your government here. We was having a normal and good relation with the Irani and good understanding. And I think in any, let us say it, military arrangement or any economic arrangement, exclude Iran, it will not work in the area. You have 60 million of people facing a few millions in the other side, and I don't think the policy to try to engage Iran in a way. I think we should not engage Iran. I think we should have a dialogue with the Iranis. They have their own fare, we have our own fare. They don't interfere in our fare, we don't interfere in their fare. They can have their own policy, we can have our own policy in the area. If we come to this understanding and we make cooperation with them, economic cooperation between us and Iran, I think that's the best solution to leave the area calm. If you are talking about mass weapon in Iran, if I am in the Iranian side and I am bordered with many countries which they have same weapon, and with Israel have same weapon, our argument here is very weak. The most important thing is we try to absorb Iran with us and to have a dialogue with them. And instead of trying to revenge and tell them, well, you cannot have this weapon, you cannot have this, or you cannot do this, I think if we want to do this, we should also tell the Israeli the same, we should tell the Pakistani the same, we should tell the Indian the same, we should tell most of previous Soviet Union country the same. I know your opinion here is different, and you say, well, it is not in safe hand, and some people say this weapon is not in safe hand. This is an argument. But if we try to push them more further, that means we are making the case for them to revenge and making the case to them to make an argument. I think instead of that, as I mentioned, to have a dialogue with us in the area or with the United States. I don't see that due containment work between which you put it with the Iraqi and the Iranian. It doesn't work. And now you have to make a new strategy, a new way of dealing with these countries. I don't think that we can, as I mentioned, ignore 60 million people behind us.
Bring the microphone.
Your Excellency, thank you very much for talking a few minutes about King Hussein and King Abdullah. We in Jordan hope that King Abdullah will be effective as his father was, and we wish him the best of luck.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
I ask a question while you're getting the microphone there. Your assessment of the situation in Iraq after the withdrawal of UNSCOM and the future of the regime in Iraq with all these troubles with the Shiites in it.
Here again, we have a difference with your view or with the administration view. I think the regime in Iraq, it's the responsibility of the Iraqi people, not for us to change power in Iraq. I don't think this is wise. I don't think this will work. About Iraq, we always support United Nations resolution, Security Council resolution, but we always care about the Iraqi people and the suffer which they have now. I know your people could say that the suffer which they are having now, it is from their regime, which it's in Iraq, but that's not what we want to say. We need to reach a solution for this matter. And I think the solution, of course, should be through United Nations, but we have to have a systematic timetable to solve this problem in a way not to leave it open-ended. If Iraq doesn't have a hope when they will finish this matter, I think we can expect anything from the Iraqi people. And we shouldn't blame the Iraqi government for this. We blame them because they don't respect, of course, the United Nations resolution. But we should also look at the other hand, that they are a human being and they are staying now for many years waiting any development through United Nations. For that reason, I think we should have a package deal for the matter of Iraq, and the package deal through United Nations by checking the resolution, by checking what the Iraqi developed up till now or what they finished up till now and what they are looking for to finish from those resolutions, and to try to show them hope by putting a timetable for this things. Yes.
Yeah, I'm a citizen of the European Union, and I'm interested in knowing a bit about your special relationships with this group of countries. If you have a special economic relationship, and if this relationship has changed after the Gulf War, or now that there is a new a peace progress in the area, if you are increasing this relationship or how they are.
With which country? With Israel?
With the European Union.
With the European Union. Well, as you know, we are part of the British colony from the beginning. And we have a historic relationship between us and Europe, long historical relationship. And this relationship is being built over many, many years, and it's continued. We have an excellent relation with Europe. And the economic situation between us is growing year after year. Problem now with the new economic situation in our area due to the oil prices, which it's affecting our programs in developing our country. That's maybe part, maybe it will relate next year. You can see it in the balance sheet between us and European country that there is less importation, less project. But mainly our main partner in the area, I can say Europe, in terms of economic or exchange goods. In terms of main partner in the energy sector, I can say mainly we are with United States. And maybe with this state more than any other state.
Your Excellency, I'm interested in what Qatar's role will be in the future natural gas market in the region.
Well, as you know, Qatar have a big reserve of gas. And we are developing this since now 5-6 years. We are committed now for around 15 to 20 million ton of liquid gas, and we hope that we can raise this to 30. This is our plan. As you know, the natural gas need a lot of investment and need a lot of work and effort. It's different than the oil. You invest a little bit and you pump the oil and you sell it in the market. The gas, you have to have a partner to receive the gas for many years. And for that, our policy is to have agreement minimum for 25 years with our gas partner, which we call them gas partner. They buy the liquid gas from us. Of course, we are developing a lot of factories which are related to the petrochemicals and other industry which are related to the gas. And we are doing well in this. And in fact, all these projects, because of the confidence in the project and because of the confidence in Qatar, they are financed by themselves through the bank without any kind of guarantee or related guarantee to our government. Of course, it's been done through a partner, and as I mentioned, mainly partner from United States. We, if you hear now, there is a voice saying to have a partnership with the oil company in the area and to open the area for partnership of oil. We did this 5 years ago or 6 years ago. So we are ahead of all the others in this aspects.
Your Excellency, what is your relation with the Palestinians, and how will you have relations with them if they become a state?
Well, we have an excellent relation with the Palestinians. We support them since many years during their struggle, and we support them now more during the peacetime. And we think that after Madrid conference, the world should, not us only, everybody should support the Palestinians because they make their decision to go through the peace process, not to go through other means to liberate their country. For that reason, I think the support is important. We have our mission now in Gaza, and could show you if they become a state, that means we have the same relation or better.
Your Excellency, you mentioned about the importance of Iran in the region. With regard to Iran and U.S. relationship, what influence your state or any other Arab countries have on the United States, especially Secretary Albright, to improve Iran-U.S. relationship?
Well, let me tell you with this, we don't have influence. We are a very small country, I have to say this, but we have good understanding between us and United States. We think that we are a friend to United States. We always give them our feeling and our advice about the area. We think we are very close to the area, and we are trying to help both sides to start at least negotiation or dialogue to normalize their relationship. And I think this will happen one day. The normal situation is to have normal relation with the United States, Iran. And what is now there is not normal, I think. Of course, we can say it came after a lot of what we call it, different opinion, different ideology between the Iranian and the American. And both sides have their own argument about this. But I don't think this argument could stay forever. Both sides have to sacrifice to reach a point where they can start kind of a dialogue or relationship. And we always support this. We always talk to the administration about this. This is our opinion in Qatar 10 years ago. I mean, we know that things become better last 2 years or 3 years in the area, but this is our opinions for many years, which we've been blamed by many countries, without mentioning name, but it looks like that we are on the right track.
In your talks with the Iranian officials, do you encounter, more resistance vis-à-vis the possibility of a resumption of relations with the U.S., or do you encounter more resistance on the U.S. side?
I think both sides, they have their argument and their resistance, I have to say. The Iranian have their opinion about this, the American have their opinion about this. Both sides realize that they have to start this and they have to have different relation. But I think there is also political impact in both places. There is other measures pressurize the decision, the brave decision in either in Iran or in the United States. This is my personal view.
Your Excellency.
One left. Yeah. Oh, Preston. I'm sorry. Didn't you have a
Secretary Baker and Mr. Reagan, President Reagan, but Your Excellency, as we maintain the no-fly zone in the northern part of Iraq, and hopefully I assume we're protecting the Kurdish people, it seems like almost every day the Iraqis lock in on one of our aircraft and we drop bombs on them. how much longer can that continue before something more serious develops in that area?
Well, we think we are waiting for United Nations negotiation now, which it happens between in the Security Council and between the 5 members to reach a solution in this aspect. And I think this could continue for months, I have to say this. But it guides us to the point which I said. We have to have a package deal, and we have to have a deal with the Iraqis. And the deal should be fair for everybody. For the United Nations, I don't want to say United States, United Nations and Iraq. We know that there is, as I mentioned, the Security Council resolution, and this resolution should be respected by the Iraqis. Non-fly zone, I don't think it is giving a military significant for the Kurds to protect them. It is actually, I have to say, it's a part of the psychology or where we reach now. This is something being done. We should respect it. And I know your opinion, or the American opinion, they want to respect this line, the 32 and I think 28. And these 2 lines need to be respected by United States. They are not part of United Nations resolution also. We have to understand that. So we should reach an understanding, which I could say, again, the political situation interfere in this, on both sides. On your side, I think the Iraqi problem, frankly, I know I'm getting myself in trouble, frankly, become a political issue in United States among the parties, and how you will deal with this problem. And I think we need somebody to make a decision that this is an issue, we enter in it in a situation, and we have to get out of it according to condition, and the condition United Nations resolution.
Time for one last question.
Yeah, Your Excellency, you talked about the natural gas industry. One of the things that's becoming an emerging factor is the Chinese economy and the need to move to cleaner energy sources. And they've made some announcements about investigating LNG terminals. I'm wondering if Qatar has made any efforts to expand ties with China.
We are doing so. I visited China myself a few years ago, and our Ministry of Energy visited China also, and His Highness the Emir will visit China in April. And we have delegation between both sides, going both sides, to discuss a future relation in the energy section. And I think they understand that Qatar could be a good source, and we are working with them in this. But it is, as I mentioned, the gas need investment and need a limit of price, which after that both sides lose. Or no, one side will lose, actually, which putting the investment. But we are working in this very hard, and I think we'll reach a solution with China. Well, I thank you very much. I will take one question for the lady here.
I wanted to ask you to kindly explain this very interesting flag.
That's a good question.
That's a good question.
Well, let me tell you, this flag is not, this flag, it is since 30 years or something like this. Before it was part of the we was part of the Ottoman Empire, the Turkish Empire in the area. So we was having the moon and the star in different design than the Turkey. And now we have argument in our country. Either we return to the original flag or to leave this flag. But this design, it means each one of these, I'm sorry to say this, a battle. So there is 9 battles, which I don't want to mention them, which we think that we win. in it, and this is the number.
Mr. Minister, if you
Thank
allow
you
me.
very much.
Allow me, Mr. Minister, to give you this small token of our appreciation from the Baker Institute for your visit. We're very, very happy to
Thank you
invite
very
here.
much.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
Thank you,
Pleasure.
sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much. We have this watch, which we needed to be put in Mr. Baker's office to remind us, to remind you about Qatar.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you
Minister, very
very
much.
much.
Thank you
Pleasure.
for coming. That was a very good presentation.
Thank you.
Those were good questions.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Do you have time for the reception? I know you want to leave.
Yes. 15 minutes. 15 minutes.
We're already running out.